Whoa! Welcome into the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Figured that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. My friends, we've done it. We've done it. We are finally here. We have begun the third show of the week. This was the first week of 3 episodes in the same week. And we have gotten all 3 off the ground. Now the effects, the zooming in and out has gone absolutely wild this morning. I might turn that off right now. I don't know if I can handle that. We're just going to go here. Hello. Good morning to everybody. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're having a great morning. I hope whenever you find this show, if it's the morning, if it's the afternoon, if it's the evening, I hope you're having a great time. But we have a lot to get into today. We are going to, I know I said like, hey, we're going to go 3 times a week. We're going to shorten the show up because we have to. Why would you do an hour plus 3 times a week, Russ? You buffoon. We've had long episodes this week. However, I will point out that there were reasons for that. Monday, we had a loaded show, and we had to break down an Eagles game. Wednesday's show, I did what I would argue was the most comprehensive breakdown of the Brandon Graham comments, of the fallout, national pundits, local pundits, the works, Nick Sirianni, like everywhere. I had stuff from both radio stations, stuff from ESPN Radio, stuff from Fox Sports. We were all over the place on Wednesday and got some pretty nice feedback, if I'm being honest. Got some very nice feedback from the fine folks on social media and also on YouTube. So I want to welcome you in. If you're watching on YouTube, X, or Facebook, I want to welcome you into the show. If you're new to the channel, this is the Russ Joy Show, which again, you figured out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. It's also on the screen there. But this is a big Friday show, and if you pay attention to the thumbnail of the episode, which I hope you do, because that usually ends up being the thing that late at night or early on the same morning takes me the longest because I have some kind of OCD. I blame my dad for that. Very perfectionist. Oh, we got the gestures going. That's great. I don't need those either. The thumbnails are meant to give things away. What are we talking about on today's show? Well, we will get to Eagles and Steelers because that's coming on later in the episode. We are going to get to Scott Laughton's 4-goal night. We're going to also get to Jordan Mailata laying the smacketh down, getting everybody back on track. I said Wednesday morning, I was like, listen, something's going to happen. Somebody's going to lay down the law. Will it be Sirianni? Will it be Hurts? Will it be A.J. Brown? All of them. We'll get to those as well. Plus, the drones or the UFOs or the UAPs, whatever you want to call them, folks. They made it to my neck of the woods. And I have to tell you that now I went from, well, I'd be really interested. Maybe it's aliens. You know, it sounds like... My whole life, I've been like, aliens would be fine. That'd be okay. Because like you could spin things a lot of different ways. We'll get to the UFOs a little bit later. Because they were the UAPs. They were in my area. Okay, I went into the You're from Phoenixville when group that I was part of from my teaching days. I went in that group and I saw somebody posting videos and they're like, they're here. They are here. They are among us. They're flying overhead. And I'm down at the Flyers game and I'm like, well, they better not like show up at my house. If you're going to say something, say it to my face, Yeah? I actually don't want them to say it to my face. I'd actually rather not see them. We'll get to that later. I went from very excited about the potential of UFOs to not feeling so great about it. That might just be me. Also, I just find it very concerning that the government apparently has no idea what they are. At least they said, this isn't us. It's not us. The Pentagon a couple days ago, it's not us. And we don't think it's a foreign adversary. Then who is it? I will tell you, if this is a test for Amazon, I can't start the show with this, but just food for thought until later. If this is like an Amazon test, if all of these like SUV-sized drones in the sky are just like an Amazon ploy, this shit better be same-day delivery, okay? There better be same-day delivery on everything. I want within like 2 hours now. If you're going to give the public a big old scare like this, you better be telling us that like you are becoming Santa Claus himself. That's what I expect. We'll get there later on in the show, and you can let me know if the UFOs have made their way or the drones or whatever have made their way to your neck of the woods and how you're feeling. But we do have to start with some sports today, including an absolutely beautiful game out of Scott Laughton last night. Trade him away now. It's time to trade him. But before we do, we're going to go over to the comments, and then we're going to get into Scott Laughton's big night, Jordan Mailata laying the smackdown, and the UFOs. Plus anything else. Something else pops up during the show, by all means. All of you wonderful people know that over on YouTube and Facebook, you can just simply comment. And if you're watching on X, which I love and appreciate as well, you have to click on the video first. You go into the old Periscope mode where like the hearts come in and everything. And if you type your comment there, then I can pull it up on the screen. Otherwise, you're just replying to a tweet, and that I can't pull those up. They don't show up here, and I'm sorry. All right, let's go out to the comments because that's part of the show. All right, we are going to go out first to Chris Freed. Did Russ get abducted by one of those drones or UFOs, or is he just an alien and that's why the show never starts on time? The show started on time on Wednesday. In fairness, it did start on time, and I think it started on time on Monday as well. So Chris Freed, you're fake news. It's a Friday. I set everything up last night, and then I remembered that I didn't tag the video appropriately, and I'm like a big freak about like the YouTube algorithm. I know that it doesn't matter. You might look at it and say, Russ, this doesn't even like you don't have like thousands of subscribers here. What are you doing? I like to do things the right way anyway. You just never know. You know, maybe one of these days the channel just pops. I want to send good signals to the YouTube algorithm. You know, it matters to me. It's still real to me, damn it. I was not abducted, at least not that I know of. I hope not. Andrew Fawcett comes in with a Laughton 4, Red Wings 1. Yes, we'll get there in a second. Andrew Fawcett also says that the mug warmer went missing again. It did not. It's way over here. I need to move my mug warmer if I'm going to do. My desk is huge. What you guys don't get to see, other than the wires that I just never took the time to organize properly, is that this is one of those uplift desks, and I have the hooks, and there's a hammock underneath. Now, do I ever use the hammock? No. Did I buy a bigger desk specifically to have the hammock because I thought I would use it from time to time? I did. Have I ever used it? Not really. It's typically when my kids come home. They're like, Dad, can I lay in the hammock? And then I have to stand because it's an adjustable standing desk. So you get to know more about me than you want. Jay Grabby with a morning, everybody. Morning, everyone. Chris Freed, Russie the Greek, do you take the over on all A.J. Brown prop bets this Sunday? Probably not. I don't really know what to expect there. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. We wrap up a lot of these shows on Fridays with the preview. It's a brief preview, but a preview of whoever the Eagles are taking on that week. I don't know. I think the passing game is unreliable enough at this point where like I don't actively. Well, this is the thing. I'm not actually allowed to bet now because of the company that purchased Crossing Broad and XL Media where I was employed before. They have a whole thing because the company that I work for supplies a lot of data insights for a lot of sports books and a lot of sports leagues, and it's like an insider trading thing or something. So they're like, you can't bet. I can give you advice in theory. I could give you picks. I could do all of that kind of stuff. I can write about this stuff. I can't actually bet on it myself unless I apply for an exception, which I'm not doing. I don't like to bet that much. I don't really bet often at all. Maybe that's why it makes it easier to write about it. I have no idea. But I would not actively tell you to take the over on A.J. Brown props. If you want to include a couple small ones in a parlay or in a same-game parlay, then maybe. But I wouldn't throw down Boku bucks on like the A.J. Brown over. I don't know. I don't even know what his yards are set at right now. It might be like, is he set around like, well, I mean, they have the adjustable ones. Maybe he's at around like 80.5 would be my guess is where they're going to like set his over-under for receiving yards this week. Somebody can let me know. It'll vary by sportsbook. Whatever. We're not getting into that right now. Dersh says, but the vibes. I don't know what the vibes are, but the vibes are immaculate. They're immaculate here on this show today. Oh, and by the way, do I do it? Do I do the thing that I could do here? Like, I mean, I could go back to the 2-camera setup. Hey, friends, we're not doing that today. We're not. But I did remember how to do it. I got it set back up. But you don't need 2 of me. You only need 1. One of me is enough. Two is too many. Nico with a what up, y'all? Chris Freed says, with the show going to 3 days a week, you should add a segment for the good, the bad, and the ugly of the past week in Philly sports media. Tubular meats can be referenced in the segment as well. I had 2 tubular meats last night, 2 hot dogs at the game. I like that. The good, the bad, and the ugly out of Philly media. I like that. And you know what? I'll even take suggestions. I will take your thoughts so you can send them via DM to the show on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter. You can email them to me. You can DM them to me at Joy on Broad. If you have any standouts from the week, and you're like, you know what? I think this column by the Philadelphia Inquirer was hot garbage, and that's the ugly. That's fine. That's actually a very good idea. I like that. Jacqueline D checks in and says, drones in Delco. We're going to get there. Yo, they're everywhere now. It's fun in games when it's in New Jersey. But when they made their way here, I don't know if I feel quite as good about it. JH just simply checks in with a woo! Andrew Fawcett said, he said his desk is huge. Yes, I said desk. I don't know what you thought. Come on, Andrew Fawcett. It's a Friday morning. Get your head out of the gutter. What are you doing? He also says that my hair looks like a 70s sitcom kid this morning. Not insulting you. I'm just mad I can't grow mine. Yeah, look at that. Got some flow back here. It kind of flares out. Trying to take care of my hair. I had been going really short for a while, and then I was like, I'm just going to grow it out. What do I care? This is the beautiful thing, by the way, of doing this show. Some of you people are very nice. Some of you are Ford. Here's Ford. Ford says Ford is here. Now we got the shout-outs among the people. My brother-in-law checks in, tells me that my sister loves a frog and toad shirt. Yeah, this is classic right here. Here you go. Wait, hold on. Can we? I could do. Hold on. Wait a second. I can control the camera. I can remotely control. There we go. There we go. There you go. There's the. Maybe I need a producer after all. There you go. We must stop eating, cried Toad as he ate another. Who doesn't love Frog and Toad? The terrorists. They don't like Frog and Toad. At least that's my guess. I don't know. Maybe somebody can make a case that they do, but I can't imagine they would. Anyway, let's get into the sports today because there are sports to talk about. Most notably, we are going to start with the team that had one heck of a game last night, and then we'll move on to the clarifying of the drama around the Eagles and then the UFOs. Let's start with last night. The Flyers took on a putrid, an absolute disgustingly bad Detroit Red Wings team. When we got to the arena last night, there are times where, like, as we get set up for Press Row Show, Ant will come in. He'll have a couple of things to say. He was actually working last night to try to get some clarity on some trade rumors that were out there. Intern Andrew's setting things up. And then Bundy comes in, and you can kind of get a feel for what the game's going to be like based on Bundy's mood and what he has to say just before the game. He came in, and he looked kind of flabbergasted. And he said, boys, this is going to be a bad game. I'm like, really? He goes, oh, it's going to be a horrible game. Horrible game. This team, We're like, all right, Bundy, like, let's see. Right? Because we knew that Detroit is bad, right? We know that there's an animated corpse of Patrick Kane on the team. We know that there were fake rumors going around about Dylan Larkin wanting a trade. That was actually pretty funny. That was last week. Or was it early this week? It was last week. But, like, Detroit is a really bad team. And, like, when you think about the other teams that the Flyers are theoretically supposed to be competing for in the draft lottery for the chance to pick high up in the draft, I mean, you see the disparity between Detroit and Philly, even though I don't think Philly's a good team. I am very resolute in the belief that, like, this should still be a bottom 10 team. We come back to this all the time about Torts raises your floor. Bundy's idea, his idea is that, like, Torts raises your floor 7 games. He gives you 7 wins versus, like, just your replacement level coach, which is probably fair. But that's 14 additional points, and that can really take you from being in contention for one of the top picks into being, like, just on the border of even being in the lottery or not. So you take all this into consideration. You go back a few weeks to when the Flyers played the Blackhawks at home. You saw that Blackhawks team, despite the fact that Connor Bedard is there, he was struggling at the time. That's a really bad team. And then you look at what Philly played last night in Detroit, and it was horrific. I mean, the Flyers are almost allergic to putting shots on goal. And yet, last night, through 2 periods, they had 30 shots on goal. 30. Like, this is a Flyers team that not that long ago struggled to put together, like, I don't know, 15 shots on goal. There was a game that, like, they almost got to a point where they were trending to get, like, their pace. They were getting 3 shots on goal through the first 2 periods. We're like, oh my God, have they ever gone single digits in an entire game? So, like, when I tell you that Red Wings team is horrific, it legitimately is. Now, there are positives that we could take away from last night's game. One of the big positives, if you're looking for something to hang on to, is that Jamie Drysdale's play in some ways continues to look better than it did early in the season. And Jamie Drysdale is a guy who, at the beginning of the year, looked like an absolute flop. And the shame in all of it was he was the centerpiece of the Cutter Gauthier trade. Now, regardless of how you feel about Cutter Gauthier and about whether or not he was a quitter and whether or not he betrayed the Flyers fan base and all that kind of stuff, no matter where you stand on that, what you should be able to at least hang your hat on is Jamie Drysdale was supposed to be the power play quarterback, right? Like, he was supposed to be the guy who could lead the top power play unit. And not just now, but because of his age, could be the guy who does that for many years to come, including when you flip the switch and try to become a Stanley Cup contender. So you had all that, and then he got hurt last year, and then he had the full offseason. But when he came back, he just didn't look like himself. He looked like a guy who was actively avoiding trying to be hurt or trying to take a hit because he looked like he was afraid that he was going to get injured again. And then he ends up out. There were some murmurs that maybe the injury that had him on IR wasn't that serious and that maybe he could have come off a lot sooner. They were getting a look at Helge Grans. They were getting a look at Emil Andre. Cam York also went down. So they got to look at some more of their young defensemen. Since Drysdale's come back into the lineup, he's not been perfect, but he's certainly been significantly better than the guy that we saw at certainly at the beginning of this year. Like, without a doubt. He looks like a totally different player. And if he's able to kind of build back his confidence and they're able to keep him healthy, then maybe there's a path to this not looking like a horrific trade. Now, Gauthier, again, like we've said this a few times when we've checked in, Gauthier is not lighting the world on fire. However, I still think that he's going to be a legitimate player in the league. And I won't be surprised if Gauthier becomes like a 30-goal scorer. And we're going to have to sit back here, and we are going to constantly have the comparison between Drysdale and Gauthier. And if he becomes a 30-goal scorer, your hope has to be that Drysdale can be lethal on the power play and at least at the very least above average to very good at even strength. That has to be your hope. Because if not, you've lost that trade. But a positive. He looked okay. The blue line as a whole last night looked good. Alexei Kolosov. Some people call him, well, we had somebody in the comments, I forget who it was, a few weeks ago. Somebody called him Sexy Alexei. If he keeps playing like he has been lately, you might want to call him Sexy Alexei. Some people call him Cola Save. It's not a bad one. Coley the goalie. Don't worry, friends. Designs are coming. Shop.snowthegoalie.com. So we have that. But really, the big story of last night, if you're a Red Wings fan, was Cam Talbot, former Flyer. Cam Talbot was absolutely astounding. Now, 4 goals against looks bad. Keep in mind, 2 of them were empty netters, right? 1 was a breakaway. And then there was like 1 just in the normal run of play. Cam Talbot had a sensational game. Through those first 2 periods where the Flyers put up 30 shots, Talbot had 29 saves, including a save on an attempt at Michigan that Mishkov once again tried. This is the first time he's tried it in, I think, about a month. The last time, I think, was against Boston, and that's when Hartnell kind of had a little meltdown on air about, like, I don't want to talk about it. You can't do that kind of play in a game. Shut the hell up. But otherwise, Cam Talbot had a really good game for Detroit. That easily could have been a 6-1 game. That could have been an 8-1 game. Ends up being 4-2, and again, 2 of them are empty netters. But then you look at who scored the goals for the Flyers. Oh, to Matvei Mishkov. Was Matvei Mishkov responsible for any of those goals, Russ? He must have been. He's been on fire of late. Could it have been young Owen Tippett? I've seen Owen Tippett is starting to turn it around. Was it him? Could it be Travis Konechny, who is named to Team Canada for the Four Nations Cup? It must have been one of them, Russ. Maybe it was a blue liner. Perhaps Jamie Drysdale was feeling really good about himself, and he had that 1 goal taken back over the weekend, so maybe it was Jamie Drysdale. All 4 of them were scored by Scott Laughton. And I'm not making that up. If you somehow missed the game, if you didn't look at the episode title, if you didn't look at the thumbnail and wonder, why the hell Scott Laughton on a thumbnail? He must have gotten traded. No. Scott Laughton had all 4 goals. That is his first hat trick since February of 2021 when the Flyers were in Washington taking on the Capitals. They won that game 7-4. Scott Laughton had his second hat trick of his career, but then he took it another step further. He tried on a 2-on-none with an empty net to give Garnet Hathaway a goal, and Garnet Hathaway was like, no, like absolutely not. Kind of like pulled out the Uno reverse card, gave it back to Laughton, who then put the fourth in. Obviously, the first 4-goal game of his career. It's been a long time since a Flyers player has scored 4 goals in a game. Decades, in fact. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that all of a sudden Scott Laughton is going to become a legitimate goal-scoring threat? No. As intelligent human beings, you all have to know there is absolutely no chance that Scott Laughton is at any point going to be a legit goal-scoring threat. Scott Laughton is a bottom 6 forward. Scott Laughton is a player who they actively need to trade this season, and they need to stop selling themselves on, oh, we need to get above market value for him. Nope. Market value is fine. Lower the floor of the team. This is a rebuild. He doesn't make sense here. He's 30 years old. By the time the team's ready to flip, he's going to be 32, 33. Does not make sense. Please, for God's sake, take a good offer. Take a high draft pick, because there will be at least one team that will offer one around the deadline. Send Scott Laughton to a place where he can win. Send Scott Laughton to a place that he'll be happy and his family will be happy. But he's not a goal-scoring threat. And this has been a very up and down season for him. I mean, going into last night, he had 3 goals on the season. He had 1 goal in his last 25 games. He scored 2 against Seattle very early in the season, right? He had 3 goals going into last night. Again, 25 games. In the 25 prior games, he had 1 goal. He somehow pops 4 off. So now he's sitting at 7 for the year. Those 4 goals represent, let me do the mental math here, roughly 30% of his point output for the entire season. He's at 14 points for the year. Let me do that. 4, 8, 12. Well, it's less. It's more than 25, and it's less than 33. We'll say about 30. Is that 29? Let's show the math here, Russ. If my brother-in-law and sister are watching, which they were before, they're both engineers. Let's see. What's that percentage? 4 divided by 14. 28.5%. What did I say, 30? All right, let's give the language major a little bit of a break here. Not that bad, though. Good rationale. It's not the new math. If you have kids right now who are in elementary school, good luck. I see the math, the way that they teach math now, it makes no sense. It's all estimates, and then you kind of count up, you count down. I don't get it. Anyway, mental math. Very valuable. Thank you to the Pottsville Area School District for instilling great arithmetic skills in my brain. I do appreciate that tremendously. All right. So Scott Laughton is what he is. He's a bottom 6 forward. He's not going to move the needle. He's not going to go out and get you anything of significant value on the trade market as of right now. Now, by the time the deadline comes around, there will be teams that are going to be in playoff contention that are going to probably have a bidding war for Scott Laughton as long as he's able to be healthy. I have said this a few times. Scott Laughton is a guy that over the last 18 months has warranted multiple offers from multiple teams, including some higher picks. Danny Briere last year at the trade deadline said that he's not going to take market value for Scott Laughton. He needs to take above market value. Let's also not forget the fact that this time last year, did I freeze? It looks like on my video I look frozen. That's not good. I don't like that. All right, here, I'm going to flip over to this camera really quick just in case. Let's see. You guys let me know. There we go. It looks like I'm unfrozen. There we go. I've caught up. All right, I think I fixed it. You guys let me know. But I'm pretty sure we should be back. We should be good now. But you feel free to let me know. I'm going to wait for you guys. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. All right, there we go. We're back. All right, cool. I don't know what happened. It was weird. It like froze for a second, and that was strange. I have to make a note to myself for now when I go back and edit this. Jim Jam. So that was what, around the 26-minute mark. All right, here we go. All right, good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your understanding in these unprecedented times. I do appreciate that tremendously. Okay. Back to what I was saying. So Scott Laughton maybe could this be, did my mic cut out because of are the drones over my house? Are the aliens here? Could it maybe there, see, Amy was right there with me. Uh-oh, I froze again. All right, oh, this is not good. This is not good. All right, hold on, let me see. If I lost audio again, and it looks like it's still working. Let's see. All right. See, I mentioned the drones, and look what happens. I've had multiple freeze-ups now. I don't know what's going on. That's weird. This has never happened before. Okay, anyway. So Laughton, last 18 months, multiple trade offers made. Flyers not willing to make any kind of a move. Not willing to take him for a trade for market value. He had to be above market value. Fine. Do we really care? Like in the grand scheme of things, would trading Scott Laughton in the last year or so have made a significant difference? I could make the argument that if they had traded Laughton ahead of last year's deadline, him not being there, especially on the PK, would have probably cost them some points. And then maybe you're getting to draft closer into the top 10, top 9. Maybe. Like that's the kind of impact it might have had. But this year, you have to deal him by the deadline. As long as there's a high pick available, you have to at least consider it. And to this point, the Flyers have just been very unwilling to do so. When you start to get closer to the deadline, we can take a look at some of the quotes that Keith Jones put out this week, because Jonesy also went out of his way this week to reiterate what the plan is with this team. You have to remember, there are people, such as myself, who actively go on the air and opine that the Flyers might be falling in love once again with the idea of trying to make the playoffs. And that's not the point. The point of this rebuild isn't to make the playoffs. It's to have long, sustained winning. So I'll actually go out to a Keith Jones quote because I think that it does matter. And I just have to get rid of some. There's like a bunch of ads on. Why do people put these Google ads that don't make them that much money anyway? Why do they put them on their screen? Like, why? Don't put them on the site. What are you doing? Okay, let's go over here. So here was Keith Jones earlier this week with Kipper. He was on with Nick Kiprios and Justin Bourne. Not Evan Bourne. That was a wrestler. And Keith Jones said the following about the Flyers going out and making moves around the deadline. He said, we're not going to be adding, we'll be subtracting. We've been really clear about that. I said really. He didn't say really. We've been clear about that. We are not in a position where we are ready to be a Stanley Cup contending team yet. We're going to battle and try to win every night, but at the same time, we're not losing sight of where we need to get in order to be a team that can consistently compete for the Stanley Cup. And then he also said, we're open to a lot of ideas, I'll tell you that. There's no doubt. I can't rule out any member of our team not being a part of that future. Well, Matvei Michkov is one. Like, you're not trading Matvei Michkov. There's no scenario in which you trade Matt. If Connor McDavid gets offered to you, maybe. Yeah, you do. If Leon Draisaitl got offered to you, well, Draisaitl was a free agent. They didn't engage with him. So, no. I don't think there's any way that you're trading Matvei Michkov. But the rest of the team, have at it, man. I don't care. Most of these guys, not going to help you win a Stanley Cup. I mean, in fairness, if we're looking 3 years down the line, how many of the current roster players are going to be on that team? You would presume Owen Tippett, because of his contract, will be on this team. Travis Sanheim, because of his contract and the no movement, will probably be on this team. You would imagine that there's a pretty decent likelihood that a Cam York will be on this team. You would probably expect, if he plays well, then that Drysdale will be on this team. Although here we were like a week ago, and it was like, well, the Flyers may have already mentioned his name in trade negotiations. So, okay, maybe not Drysdale. Who else on this team is going to be here? You probably would say Konechny because of the contract and because they're very committed to him. Couturier's contract's in albatross, so he'll be here. But, like, realistically, there aren't a ton of guys that are currently on this team that are going to be here when you flip the switch to be a contender. So have at it. Now, Anthony last night mentioned the fact that, like, Los Angeles, because they have been rumored with the Flyers. Frank Saravalli went on Daily Faceoff, I think it was yesterday, and said that the Flyers and Kings have had conversations about a potential deal. Players that might be of interest. There are many, but players that might be of interest to the Flyers, to the Kings, include two young forwards. One is Joel Farabee, and the other is Morgan Frost. Okay, Frost is not a surprise because the idea here is you're trying to trade Frost for another center, hopefully, another young center, another change of scenery guy. Great. Joel Farabee, could they move him? Sure. Farabee's like a very hot and cold player, and he's not one that I'm 100% convinced is going to be part of a Stanley Cup contending team. I never know what to expect out of Joel Farabee. And in fairness, I don't think the coaching staff knows either, and I think that's part of the problem. It's very hard to figure out what exactly Farabee's going to give you on a night-to-night basis. There are times that he looks like he's loafing around on the ice, and there are times that he looks like he's actively putting pucks on net and is a threat. If you traded Farabee and you traded Frost, does it dramatically impact your team's long-term ability to compete for a cup? I say no. I don't think it breaks your franchise. But you need to get something back. Now, what I'll be interested in, and then we're going to go out to the comments, what I'd be more interested in, the Flyers have now proven time and time again that they have the ability to go out and get Russian players, to get players who are in the KHL to come over to the U.S. Could we potentially see a scenario where the Flyers start to scout the international market more? Remember, NHL teams, when they draft a player from Russia, they keep those rights in perpetuity. Could the Flyers, as part of trade negotiations, look for some players who are in the KHL that the NHL teams that own their rights think this guy's not coming over, or it's going to be 2 more years, or it's going to be 3 more years, or we're not sure what the relationship is right now? Could the Flyers go and explore that international market a little bit more, given their success with Fedotov, with Kolosov, with Mishkov? Yeah, I think it's in play. So from my vantage point, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to look at potential trade partners that would want some of the NHL players, the Frosts, the Farabees of the world, maybe the Ristolainens, and I want to do a little bit of a breakdown of like, all right, who are some of the best Russian players or KHL players that other teams have drafted that are not on their way over and might still be under contract? Because to me, that's like where you win along the margins. Like, what's the nice way to say this without being totally offensive to people who are trying to make it into the NHL? The AHL is fine, and sometimes you're able to get a prospect that's in the AHL, and they're going to make a difference. But a lot of times, a lot of it feels like a crapshoot. Getting prospects from the AHL, a lot of times, is a bit of a crapshoot. You're looking more at players who might be in junior right now, who could try to make a case to break onto the roster next year. You do know that you have Oliver Bonk, who will probably be ready next year. You do have Jet Lashenko, who made the team out of camp. I'm looking at this international player pool and saying to myself, that might be where you can actually add legit talent. And maybe if you get to pick in the lottery this year, and you have the Colorado pick and the Edmonton pick this year, perhaps this is the last year of the rebuild. Because if you're able to go get another guy or two from Russia who might be impact players, or at the very least, very good NHL players, and you can get them cheaply through a trade of players that I don't think ultimately matter that much, maybe next year you're willing to say, hey, we're not fully in rebuild mode. Now we are in, let's start teaching these guys how to win mode. And at that point, I'm like, all right, cool. You've done 2 years of this rebuild. I don't think they're ever going to tear it all the way down. So I think, the hopes of tear it down to the studs and, actually tank, I think those are, I think there's just no chance. So now you have to kind of look at how do you turn the thing around a little bit faster. And that, to me, is the way to go. Let me go out to the comments here because there have been a lot of people about Laughton, people about the Flyers. Hunter Miko says, how about Scott Laughton? He's about to get an 8x10. So 8 years, $10 million AAV for that right there. Name someone else in the league that can score double their goal output total +1 in one game. It's a great point. Great point by Hunter. Fantastic. Let's see. There were other Flyers things in here. Raymond Supper says, Torts keeps trying to compare Drysdale to Dan Boyle. Boyle was acquired for a 5th-round pick. Drysdale was acquired for a prospect who I think was the 5th pick in the draft. Big difference. That is a huge difference. Drysdale was a much more highly touted player himself. I don't see the comp. Or if he's trying to just compare the on ice, that's still different than comparing the actual acquisition itself. We're going to go down to Andrew Fawcett says, first Flyer with a 4-goal game since Leclerc. There was somebody else. I forget who intern Andrew said last night. I don't remember. There was another guy. Ray Supper also says, Laughton would look really good with a lightning bolt playing bottom 6 with Cam Atkinson. Who are they going to send back? Just out of curiosity. Who are they going to send back? I need to know. I like also the way that some of you guys handled the moment of silence there. Blink twice if you're in danger. Momento. Good God. Okay. We gotta be careful. Every time that I've mentioned UFOs, the screen has frozen. So we're gonna just be very careful. We don't need to have an issue here. All right. Nico asked how the Spanish is. It's not un momento. Well, it's not uno momento. We'll get there later. Maybe we'll get there. All right. Let's see. I have questions about the aliens and the drones. Oh, I thought I just froze again. I didn't. We're okay. Nick Bot over on YouTube. Thanks for checking in. I think Danny will make trades like Frost Farabee at the draft, while Risto and Laughton will be at the deadline. I won't be surprised if the Flyers make a deal of Frost and or Farabee by the deadline as well. I think all 4 of those players, like if we're being honest here, and if the Flyers aren't gaslighting us about the rebuild, which you could make a case they have to this point, if they're not gaslighting and they are earnest about, we know how we have to, get elite talent, all 4 of those guys should be dealt by the deadline. At the very least 3 of them. If you want to make a case that Farabee should stay, fine. Frost, it's not going to happen here with this coach. Risto, playing the best hockey of his career, get him out. Laughton should have been gone 18 months ago. Should have been gone 12 months ago. Should have been gone 6 months ago. We'll see. And it's not because these are bad guys. They're not. They're not bad guys at all. I don't see the point of having them here. The timeline doesn't make sense. All right, then it looks like we had people arguing in the comments. Well, that's not great. Landros 2 says, if Jones says it, it must be true. Well, we know that's also not necessarily the case. Nick Bott says, I'm okay with dropping Drysdale, but I need a top 4 defender or top 6 forward, a prospect, and a first. I don't know where you're going to get that kind of package. I have no idea. Let's see. We also haven't had a first-line left wing since pre-2012. It's been a long time since there's been a natural left wing that's played at a high level. Also checks in here. Nick Bott is on fire today. A lot of the ECHL guys play with high-level high school players. I was invited once, and I couldn't skate. Ain't no way we're bringing this guy over from the Royals. Okay. All right. I feel good now about where we were at on the Flyers. Now, I want to get to some of the other stuff because there were other things that happened this week, and I'm looking at the amount of time that the show has taken up already, and we're not going to get under the hour, are we? Maybe we will. I don't think so, though. But maybe. Greg here, by the way. Greg Bondarenko. Hello, Greg. Greg says, 4 RFAs are up this year. Who will stay pending they don't get traded? Frost, Forster, York, and Cates. I assume Frost will get dealt. Forster will remain here. York will remain here unless somebody really blows their doors off with a deal. Cates, I don't know. I'm really not sure. I have no clue. I don't know what they think of Cates internally. maybe he ends up being part of a draft day package. Like, I don't think his long-term future is here. I don't see that part. That wouldn't make sense to me to like re-up him for beyond 2 years, especially given like what they're supposed to be. Unless their thought is they're going to move on from some of the from the vets. Like if they were going to say like, hey, we're going to move on from the Palings and the Hathaways. We think Cates can serve at least one of those roles. We'll give Cates the shot to be like the 4C. Then okay, like if it's an affordable deal, Tortorella likes him. Maybe that's it. All right, let's get to the Eagles. We spent all of Wednesday's show on the Eagles. I don't want to spend 20 minutes on the Eagles, but I do want to shout out why I have been such a big fan of Jordan Mailata and why I think Jordan Mailata is very clearly a major leader on this team. So on Wednesday morning, we did the show where we broke everything down. We talked about the comments, we talked about the reaction, the head coach, all of it, and the media reaction. Wednesday, Jordan Mailata spoke to the media, and he was very clear how he felt about the A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts drama. Let's go out to Jordan Mailata, a massive human being with golden pipes, the voice of an angel. Let's go out to Jordan Mailata. What did he have to say about the controversy and whether or not it was going to be allowed to affect the Eagles locker room?
Yeah, thanks.
Jordan, was this addressed in the team meeting today at all? And does it seem like if it was, that this is now over?
Yes. We are moving on. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, not the A.J. Brown and Jalen show. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's it. Yeah, thanks.
I mean, that was about as authoritative as it could be. That was about as spot on as it could have been. It's not the Jalen and AJ show. It's Steelers week. That's our focus. When you're looking for somebody to stand up and be a leader on a team that could have very easily ended up plummeting, an Eagles team that could have gone down the same exact negative path as last year, the same kind of collapse, you need somebody to kind of stop the bleeding. You need somebody to go out to the media and kind of put an end to it. Now, I'm actually going to bring this up because this is mic'd up better. So those of you who might not have been able to hear it as well, NBC Sports Philly had the mic in front of him, as did 6ABC. But here's a little bit of a little bit more context from Jordan Mailata.
Just want to make that clear. It's a rumor.
Jordan, was this addressed in the team meeting today at all? And does it seem like if it was, that this is now over?
Yes. We are moving on. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, not the A.J. Brown and Jalen show. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's it. Those guys who are involved want to speak on it, they'll speak on it. But you know, I've been telling everyone else, this is not our business. Our business is Sunday. Our business are the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's what we got to take care of. That's what we can control. We can't control anything else. You know, we can't keep giving you guys, I mean, you guys are my friends, but can't keep giving you guys any more stories because that's a distraction. But the beauty of it is that we can work on eliminating distractions. So the more questions you guys ask, I guess the better we can drill it.
Thanks, Jordan. All right, so that, again, that's leadership. That's what it looks like. That's what it sounds like. Putting it to bed. Now, in fairness, others spoke to the media. Jalen Hurts spoke to the media. He had a quote that was interesting where he said, like, the offense is going to look like what Jalen Hurts wants the offense to look like. Essentially, like, you're going to have to deal with the fact that he's going to use his legs. And the reads that he makes are going to be the reads that he makes. The throws that he makes are going to be the throws that he makes. I didn't see that much negative blowback to that quote. A.J. Brown did kind of what was recommended. Like, I said on Wednesday's show that if I were him, like, I don't think I'd give, like, a full-throated apology. But I would kind of reiterate that, like, when I said passing, I clearly didn't just say the quarterback's name. Like, there was more to it than that. And that, like, things just have to get better as a whole. And A.J. Brown met with the media on Wednesday as well. And I think he did a much better job of kind of clarifying all of it. Now, there are very long clips of it that were available online. I'm going to go to a really short one from Tim McManus, who was also the one who got the clarifying comments from Brandon Graham after Graham went on WIP. So we'll give another shout here to Tim McManus, and we'll use his clip today. But here's A.J. Brown a couple days ago just kind of giving a little bit of clarity to what he meant by passing and the whole issue, we'll call it, with the fallout from his comment on Sunday.
AJ, obviously there's been a lot of talk, especially from Brandon Graham, about your relationship with Jalen.
Yeah.
Do you just want to offer any clarity on what's going on there?
Yeah, BG was just being BG. He's emotional. In that case, he just misspoke. Me and Jalen are good. So it's BG. Everybody loves BG. He's speaking from the heart. He's just giving his perception or something from the outside. So.
Yeah, he's around you guys, all the time, though. Could you see where there might be a misperception based off?
I think that's what everybody. I think that's what the world did. They perceived what I said about passing and felt like it was an attack on Jalen, and I think that's what he did. Me and Jalen relationship.
Okay. Now, again, there's a much longer clip. Elliott Shore Parks put out like a 7-minute, I think it was the entire availability, which we're not going to play here. But AJ's saying BG's being BG. He's emotional. He took it a certain way. Everybody else seemed to take it a certain kind of way. There's a learning moment here, potentially, for A.J. Brown and for the organization. And, listen, there were some moments last year where A.J. Brown had a couple of comments that got taken and were blown up into a much bigger thing. And, we had the collapse at the end of last year. This maybe, I'm not one of the people who watches the end of a season and, if the Eagles lose, this weekend, for example, right? What's one of the tried and true things that, your drunk uncle will say? Well, it's better to get the loss out of the way now than in the playoffs. I hate that. I like teams playing hot down the stretch. I don't actually feel good about the late season loss. I don't think you learn a lot from the late season loss. Is it better than in the playoffs? Sure, because it's not sudden death like the playoffs are. But if there were ever a time for there to be a little bit of controversy, now is probably an okay time. If this had happened in the final week of the regular season and then they had a bye week or they had a wild card round matchup the next week, that could have been bad. But this happening now is okay. And the fact that they were all, and again, I go back to mentioning that Jalen Hurts also spoke, Nick Sirianni also spoke. They did a really good job as a whole, the four, Hurts, Brown, Sirianni, Mailata, of squashing this thing, or at least expressing to the media that it's effectively squashed. That, to me, was a very big development, and it's something that if you're an Eagles fan who was worried about it after a few days ago, you probably shouldn't feel so bad about it. You should definitely feel better about things. Now, we'll see what the chemistry looks like. There was a question early in the episode, would you take the over on all of the A.J. Brown prop bets this week? And I said I still probably would not. I would actively avoid them because I still think that there's a lot of work to be done in this passing game. And just by virtue of the fact that, you have Smith on one side and Brown on the other, at any given point, either of those guys can go off for a big game. Or they eat up each other's opportunities and neither have a huge game on the final stat sheet. I would actively avoid receiver props for the Eagles this weekend. That's me. Now, that's where I'm at there. Let's talk about Eagles-Steelers for a second. Because the Steelers, as a team this year, entering a season where they had Justin Fields, where they had Russell Wilson. They started off the year strong with Justin Fields. They made the call to switch over to Russell Wilson. That was some thought it was a very questionable call. They were like, Justin Fields is doing really well. Russell Wilson looked like dog shit in Denver. Why make the switch when it's working? It's come up very positively for the Steelers. Russell Wilson's been fantastic. And you look back at the last, they're at this point, entering this weekend, the Eagles are hot. The Steelers are coming off of back-to-back wins. They lead what was at least expected to be a very competitive AFC North division at 10-3. They're 2 full games up on the Baltimore Ravens. Barring, a huge collapse, Pittsburgh could very well win the AFC North. And again, Russell Wilson's looked really good this year. Look back at their last few weeks. They had a 13-point win at home last week against the Browns. The week before, 6-point win in a high-scoring 44-38 win over Cincinnati. The week before, they lost to the Browns, but prior to that, they beat the Ravens at home. They beat the Commanders on the road. They beat the Giants at home. They beat the Jets at home. They pummeled the Raiders on the road. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They've won 7 of their last 8 games, including back-to-back against 2 division rivals. Now, in fairness, the Bengals, not a particularly good team. Certainly not making the playoffs. Cleveland's an absolute disaster. But this is still a good team. And if you're the Eagles, you can't afford to look past them. Now, when you play a team that's 10-3, I think it's kind of hard to look past them. And it's really not a trap game, like how last week appeared on paper could be a trap game because you could maybe look past Carolina knowing that Pittsburgh was off in the distance. If you're the Eagles, like after this game, the schedule's not particularly complicated, right? You get on 95 or on the train, you go down to D.C., you're home against the Cowboys, and you're home against the Giants. You have 3 division games to wrap up the season. You just have to beat the Steelers this week. Now, the race in the NFC as a whole, we've now broken this down a bunch of times. The Eagles right now are level at 11-2. They're level with the Vikings, and they are 1 game behind the Lions, who are 12-1. We broke down the Lions' remaining schedule last week on this show, and we said, hey, it's going to be tough. Tough game against Green Bay. The Lions still have some rough games to come. The Vikings, I haven't looked at their schedule in a bit, but like here you go. Lions host Buffalo this week. Then they're at Chicago, at San Francisco, which is essentially a dead team now after last night. And then it's Vikings-Lions probably or possibly for the NFC North crown in the final week of the season. So Detroit still has a lot of games that have tough-ish opponents. You're level with the Vikings. So they're at home this Monday night against Chicago. They're on the road against Seattle. They're home against the Packers. And then they have that game on the road against Detroit. So that NFC North division is still somewhat wide open. And if you're the Eagles, like this game is your toughest test remaining. In the last 4 games, this is your toughest one. You have the Steelers at home, and then you have 3 divisional games. You got to get this win. I'm not, Captain must win, but in fairness, this is an important one for you to go out and get because it, at the very least, allows you to stay on pace with the Vikings. Maybe if Detroit loses, it gets you into a potential 3-way tie for the top seed in the conference, and then you have those 3 divisional games to wrap up. So much of the next few weeks are going to be interesting, right? Because we've talked about the fact that there's a non-zero chance that the Eagles will kind of be locked into one of the top 2 seeds in the conference at that point, and that by the time you have to play the Giants in the final week of the season, maybe you're able to rest the starters. If things stay as tight as they are right now with the 2 teams in the NFC North, there is a case to be made that you might not be able to rest your starters. If you want to go out and try to compete for the top spot in the conference. So there is still a lot at stake this over the next few weeks. So we have that. Now we get to the final thing. Those drones, I will see. Maybe the stream will crash again. Maybe it'll freeze again because I had the audacity earlier to mention the drones and the screen froze and the audio cut out. Now, I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy, all right? So this is not a conspiracy theory channel. I'm sitting down at the Flyers game last night, and I see, as I mentioned earlier, I see this video in the You're from Phoenixville When group, and it's all these people in Phoenixville who are freaking out about the drones. And they're like, oh my God, it's finally happening. They're not just in New Jersey. Now they've made their way into Pennsylvania. So you're seeing stuff out of Bucks County. I saw stuff in Berks County, Lancaster County, Chester and Montgomery County. And yet nobody has any idea, presumably from the government, what the hell these things are. Now, call me crazy. I find that very concerning. Now, on one hand, I go, if they were really that concerned, they would scramble like fighter jets to figure out what they are, right? Like maybe. But I gotta tell you, it's a little bit disconcerting when you go from, oh, they're in New Jersey, not that I don't care about New Jersey, but like you go from, oh, they're in New Jersey to, oh, they're like literally over my town. I'm actually going to throw this out to some footage that was provided in that Phoenixville group. Now, again, what do you expect? Okay, this isn't going to be like some life-changing video, in fairness. Like, this isn't going to be like the definitive proof of UFOs in Phoenixville. But this is one of the videos I saw last night. I'm going to go full screen here for all of you so you can see this as much as you can. But like, here you go. So these lights, you can see them kind of popping up there on the left side of the screen. Now, I muted this so you can't hear the lady because at some point, I think she curses in one of these videos, and we know that I certainly don't curse on this show. Definitely, okay, I do, but like, you know. So you have this. I think she put up 4 different videos. I'm going to just make sure that I take this. I don't want, you know, we don't need this person's identity being revealed here, you know, in case the government decides to, you know, track her down or whatever. But like, here you go. Here's another one. My wife's first reaction, by the way, was like, are you sure they're not planes? I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I didn't see them. That thing looks like it could be a plane. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. But there are a bunch of videos that were going around of like 3, 4, 5 of these flashes in the sky. I'm like, I don't know what these things are. I find it wildly disconcerting, though, that the government seems to have no idea what they are. And like that they, like there was the hearing out in New Jersey, I think it was 2 days ago. And there was somebody from like the New Jersey state legislature that came out to like ask questions or to try to like figure out if there was anything valuable to learn from it. And he got pissed off and he left. And when he met with the news station outside, they're like, well, what's the deal? And he's like, they have no answers. Like nobody in New Jersey had an answer. The police had no answer. The feds had no answer. And all I keep thinking to myself is, all right, let's just hypothetically say that this is Amazon, okay? Like, let's take like the not horrible version of this, okay? Hypothetically, what if what we're seeing in the sky is Amazon or like a Walmart Plus or a Target Plus or another upstart company that like they've said, hey, we know that you're used to getting 2-day shipping or maybe even 1-day shipping, but what about same-day shipping? Okay? What if it's those people? Well, I have serious concerns if that's the case, because you should be telling the people that it's like a pilot program. What the hell are we doing? They're not like cute little drones. They're apparently the size of cars. Now, I don't know if you've seen a car lately, but if a car falls from the sky and lands on you, you don't exist anymore. Oh, but Russ, what if they're made of carbon fiber? What if they're very lightweight? No! No! But Russ, what if it's to provide life-saving care? What the hell life-saving care is a flying car above my head that has no frequency, apparently, that we can track, that has the ability to avoid all radar? No! No! I'm not okay with that. I'm really not. As a matter of fact, like, I've always been one to be like, oh, you know what? The aliens, they're out there. Of course they are. The universe is too big. Just too big. You know? I'm a good God-fearing man. Okay, I am. Okay? The idea of there being aliens does not, to me, invalidate religion. It doesn't. Maybe it changes our interpretation of things. Possibly. But I've always been like, hey, you know what? Aliens, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be neat. Yeah, once the unknown drones are kind of flying above your head, I'm not feeling so great about it anymore. Now I'm like, I went from, oh boy, what if this is the time? Like, can you imagine, okay, my fellow like early to mid 30-somethings, can we just have a second here to just acknowledge how fucked up our timeline is, okay? Because all of the people who are older than us by a decent bit, they got to live through the world significantly pre-COVID. They got to live through the world pre-9/11, pre-multiple wars. They got to live in a world where there was like happiness and not hyperinflation, and you could like buy a beach house and pass that down to your family. Like, the world in the 90s feels like oddly nostalgic because I was a kid, But like, you would watch Full House and think that like Danny Tanner was like the best dad in the world. And God love him that his wife died and he had the two guys, Jesse and Joey, come over and they lived together. It was a happy little house in San Francisco. And you'd see the trolley, okay? Maybe I wax poetic and nostalgic about the 90s because it's when I grew up. But like, you used to be able to go to the airport and sit with your loved one before they got on the plane. You can't do that anymore. We had a pandemic. We had inflation. We have crazy people on both sides of the aisle that think the world's ending either way. And now we have drones the size of cars flying above our heads. And the government says, well, it's not us. But we also don't think that it's a foreign adversary. Hey, can we just really quick have a moment to acknowledge that, like, I don't love the idea of aliens just flying over us. I also don't like the idea of somebody who might actually want to cause harm having, something on board of that could be, make things go boom, boom, or could, like, spray things down that, like, kill us slowly. I would really appreciate if the government could figure out what the hell is above our heads and pull the collective head out of the ass. What are they? Why are they here? What is this? Like, it's kind of funny. On one hand, you go, oh, look at those things. Hey, I see 3 of them myself. What are they? Okay, because, like, they might be harmless. And like I said, there's the small percentage chance that it's an upstart that's like, oh yeah, we're going to revolutionize delivery. Motherfucker, you better tell the people now that that's what this is. Okay? You better figure that out ASAP. Because I don't like this. And I'll tell you what, you could offer me same-day delivery. You could offer me delivery within like 2 hours. But after the public scare that you're kind of causing, I'm not ordering from you. You're dead to me. Unless you can make it like within 2 hours, in which case, I mean, we can have a conversation. We'll have an open dialogue. I'm going to go out to the comments. I want to see what people think because I'm not loving it. It's not McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm not loving it. All right, let's go over to... Oh, I see a really good one here that's back to sports. We'll get there in a second from Laughton Sports Zone. I'll make sure I come back over to you. Let's see. I saw people commenting about the thing here. Dee Dee Skinner says, we got to be anonymous. No cell phones. Hunter says, some were flying over Berks County last night. Greg, with a very astute point, surprised the drones haven't been shot down. I am also surprised. I also find that kind of troubling. I mean, I guess on one hand, nobody wants to shoot something in the air because you're like, well, if it's a plane, that's bad, very bad. If they were low flying, I don't know. I saw it was actually on that one Phoenixville page. Somebody said like residents in Boyertown right now, and it was like from King of the Hill. I think it looked like a King of the Hill guy, and he had a shotgun. And he pumped the shotgun, got ready. I don't feel particularly good about it. I don't like the fact that like we don't know what's flying over our heads. It makes me uncomfortable. Now, if these things came out in the daytime and we actually got a real look at them, that's one thing. But everybody's just whipping out the cell phone cameras and trying to extend the zoom as far as they can, and we're not getting any clarity. And in a way, actually creates more public panic. Maybe there's nothing to panic about. But if it is like people that we don't want flying over our heads, perhaps we need to like scramble some jets and scare them away. There was the report a few days ago. I forget the guy's name. I think he's a congressman in D.C. He went on Fox News. And he said that Iran has, or Iran, if you prefer to call it Iran, has a mothership that they launched off the East Coast, and that all these drones are coming from that. What does a mothership look like? Does he mean like it's an actual ship, like just hanging out in the ocean? Does he mean there's like a mothership just floating above the clouds? That would also be concerning, especially if they can't see it on a radar. But then that got shot down by well, they didn't get shot down. That idea got shot down by the Pentagon and the White House over the last few days. I just want to know what they are. That's it. I live a very simple life, everybody. Like, I just, Andrew Fawcett says, hey, I just want to live in a van down by the river. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments what you think. Is there anybody who wants to welcome, like, what would make you feel better? Aliens or a foreign enemy? What makes you feel better? You can let me know in the comments. You can let me know in the live comments. You can let me know in the comments after the fact. Would you rather it be aliens or a foreign enemy? I don't know. Ford with an actual very good point here. This comes down to, don't tell me they're not a threat when you don't know what they are. I agree with Ford. Dee Dee says that she would rather it be aliens than a foreign enemy. Jacqueline D also says aliens. So we are at 2 votes for aliens on the preferred who the hell is flying above us, what makes us feel a little bit better at night. I actually don't know, in fairness. I don't know what makes me feel better. I will tell you that no matter what happens and no matter what they end up being, obviously, like, the hope is that if the government's not shooting them down and they're not scrambling jets, that it's just a government program. Although I don't feel good about that either. I'd much rather the government just say, oh, we're testing these just in case. I don't know. It's weird. It makes me feel uncomfortable. That's where we're going to end on a Friday. Okay. Flyers looked great. Scott Laughton, 4-goal night. Jordan Mailata laid the smackdown. Eagles Steelers this weekend. We'll probably see more of these drones or UFOs flying over our heads. We'll hope they don't fall out of the sky and smush us like bugs. I did see a video last night about another one of them, but I don't want to, cause panic. Somebody put a video out last night. I think it was going around Twitter where it looked like it was like shooting lasers. And I'm like, there's no way that's real. I'm just going to say, I hope that's not real. That'd be bad. All right, so hopefully we don't have aliens over our head or like bad people, bad guys flying over our heads. Anyway, we'll be back on Monday, assuming the world doesn't end. We'll be back on Monday to break all of the weekend's activity down. That includes the Sixers, the Flyers, and the Eagles. Battle of the Keystone State, Eagles-Steelers. We'll be back on Monday. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the Russ Joy Show on YouTube. If you're watching on the Joy Media channel, by the way, I love and appreciate you tremendously. You can subscribe there. But make sure you come over to the Russ Joy channel and you subscribe there as well. Ring the bell so you get notified whenever the show goes live. This is a reminder. We are getting closer, slowly but surely, to the drive to 500. Once we hit 500 subscribers, I randomly select one subscriber to the channel. That person wins the jersey of their choice worth up to $175. I'd like to get that done ASAP. So if there are like 18 of you out there right now who haven't subscribed yet, go subscribe. Let's get this thing up and running so we can get that jersey ordered before Christmas. Now, I can't guarantee it's going to get here before Christmas, just knowing how Fanatics tends to fulfill these things. I think probably not by Christmas, but we'll see. Certainly by the new year. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe. And if you like listening to shows better in a podcast feed, this show is also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. So, until Monday, remember, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week through the end of the year. We'll continue to see what the numbers look like. Until Monday, this has been the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. You figured that out because you're smart, and it's also the name of the show. I will talk to all of you, each and every one of you, on Monday. To quote Neil deGrasse Tyson, keep looking up.